Hey guys, welcome back to Rather Be Visin. My name is Sam, and today we're going to be taking a look at a few quick tips in order to elevate your Tableau game. So without any further ado, let's hop straight into Tableau and take a look at some of these great tips. Okay, so the first one we've got here, we have got our bar chart here, and we've added in a grand total. And the way we've done that is come into analysis, come to totals, and we've checked column grand totals. So now we've got a grand total in there. And you might have had this happen to you. As soon as you put in that grand total, because it's summing up all of the values, you've got a massive, great big bar there, and it makes it a bit more difficult to see some of these, the differences between some of these values here. Now what you can do is you can create a field in order to still have the grand total in there, but it won't create a bar. So this is what we need to do. We're going to come up into create a new calculated field. And we're going to call this sales no total. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use a calculation called size. So what size does is allows us to say if the size of this is 1, then be a 0, otherwise pull through the sum of our sales. And so for the way that the table is set up, it would have a look at the total, and the total will always be one row in size. So that's always going to be a size of 1. And so we can say I want that to be a 0 value, and so therefore we won't get that big bar there. So we're going to say if size equals 1, then 0, else I want to sum my sales. And we'll finish that off with an end. We can see calculation is valid. We'll click OK on that. And then we've got our sales no total down here. So we're going to bring that up and we're going to replace our current sales in there. And now you can see we've still got our grand total, but that's putting through a value of 0. So now what we can do, if we bring sales and we put that onto label, we've got our labels for all of our bars, and then we've got our grand total value down the bottom there. And that's how you can set up a bar chart, still have your total in there, but you won't have that total making all of your other marks in the view tiny. Okay, so the next tip we're going to look at is having a look at ad hoc calculations. Now, quite often when you're carrying out a piece of analysis or you're building out a view within Tableau, you might want to have a calculation that you just have in that view. You don't want to create a full calculated field for it. You might just be looking at something very quickly, want to get a quick answer. The good news is you can type calculations directly into your view. So you can do this anywhere where you can drag a pill. So you can do this on columns and rows, you can do this on your marks card. I'm going to do it within my measure values here. So I'm just going to double click, and you can see we get a little text box appear in the shape of a pill. And then we're able to type in our calculation. So I'm going to do the sum of sales, and I'm going to divide that by the count distinct of my order ID. And when I press enter, you can see that that now appears. So now we have got our sales divided by our number of orders that we've got. So we can see the average sales value for each of these orders is 603, 281, 706. And obviously we can come in here, we can format this, we can say actually I want this to be a pound value, I want it to 0 decimal places. And that's how you can add ad hoc calculations. Now these won't appear in your data pane, you won't be able to reuse these, but if you do want to, what you can do is you can just drag it over into your data pane, and you can see that's going to appear there, and then you can rename that however you want, and that's going to then save that, and you can use that within other sheets. Now the next tip is somewhat related. And so my next tip is somewhat related to that. So you can see when we create an ad hoc calculation, we just get exactly what the calculation is as our header. And if we want to change that, all we need to do is double click within here, come right to the start, and if we type a double slash, so we're entering a comment here, we can call this sales per order. And then if we hold down the shift key and press enter, that's then going to move our calculation down to the next line. And when we press enter on there, you can see that our title has changed to sales per order. So it's now no longer saying what the actual calculation is as the title. And you're not restricted to just doing that for ad hoc calculations. So if I was to bring in my subcategory here, and I actually wanted to rename what this header is here, I can double click into this. I can again add in a double slash, and I can call this my subcat. Maybe I want to be cool and have a shortened version. When I press enter, you can see I've now got subcat. And you might sometimes need to bring in your measures or your dimensions twice within the view for whatever reason. So you can do that. I can bring in my subcategory again, and now I've got my subcategory as the header. And again, if I wanted to change this, I could call this beans on toast. And now that's going to change that. So whatever you want the title of your column to be, do a /, type it in, shift and enter to move down your calculation to the next row. And now you've got a nice header there. Okay, the next tip is quite a handy one if you've got quite a large workbook with a lot of sheets in there. Down in the bottom right here, let me just move this up so we can see. Down here in the bottom right, if I move my head, we can see there are these 3 buttons here. At the moment, we've got it on this big square, and so that is showing our tabs as tabs. But if we click the one next to it, you can see what we get is we get the big view of our sheets as well as the sheet view here. So this is a lot easier to be able to see exactly what sheet you're hopping to. So this can be really handy if you're picking up someone else's workbook, or you know there's a sheet somewhere and you've not been that good at naming your sheets. So you've got sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and you want to find it, you can click that. If you want to have an even better view, you can click this grid icon, and now you have all of your sheets in a grid, so it's much easier to be able to go through and find them. And for our final tip, we're going to talk about sheet swapping. So this is something that if you've ever been on one of my training courses, you will be very familiar with. But here we've got an example dashboard set up. We've already set up our borders and our padding and all of that sort of thing on each of these sheets, and we might want to bring in a new sheet into this view. So I might want to replace this bar chart I've got here. I want to replace it with my grand total with no big bar in there. And so what you might be tempted to do is just to drag it in. So if I drag in this sheet here, drop that there and get rid of this, you can see that it's not got the padding set up, it's not got a border, and so I'm gonna have to go through and change all of those values, which can be quite a pain, especially if you're working on quite a confusing or an intricate dashboard. What we can do instead, if I just Control Z both of those, if we select the sheet that we want to replace, so here I've selected my bar, if we hover over our grand total, we'll see just here there is a arrow with 2 points, and if we click that, that is just going to switch those sheets around, right? So it's going to take out the sheet that was there and put in our new one. We can change this to be entire view so it all fits in, and now we have got our sheet in there, and it's retained that border and it's retained the padding that we've got around it. And we can do the same here. So for our pie, we don't want to have a pie on here, maybe we want to bring in our ad hoc calc sheet. We can just click that sheet swap, and again it's brought that in. We just have to change this to fit the entire view so it looks a bit better. But that's retained our padding that we've got, it's retained that border, so we don't have to worry about going through and changing all of that formatting. And there you have it. There was a handful of quick tips that should hopefully help you elevate your Tableau game. As always, if you found that useful, please do let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers for watching.